I have this. I want to talk about the hypocrisy, the amazing hypocrisy of the Democrats during this sexual scandal. We've now got what's his name, the comedian guy, Al Franken. This is an amazing story. So the Democrats have lost. I mean, this thing with Roy Moore keeps going on. More accusers. Trump declined to say anything about it. Mitch McConnell is now floating some desperate plan. It gets more and more complicated every time I hear about it. He's going to, Luther Strange is going to resign, and they're going to call for another special election, and then an angel of the Lord is going to descend on a rope. You know, it's going to be like this Deus Ex Machina. I don't know. Mitch may have lost it a little bit. He's going, yeah, and then we'll pull off, and suddenly a senator will come out of the ground, and it's going to be great. You know, I think the pressure may be getting to it. The one thing I do have to talk about, but I'm going to get to the Democrat hypocrisy, which has just been insane. But I have to get to the evil robo-Jew. I love the evil robo-Jew. This guy is calling. They're getting, you know, a robocalls when you get these automatic calls. It's a recorded voice. And so in Alabama, where Roy Moore is running for senator, they're getting these calls that pretend to be from the Washington Post, ready to pay somebody off to accuse Roy Moore. So the point is, obviously, somebody on Moore's side is trying to make it look like the Washington Post is setting Moore up. So here, you got to hear this. It's great.
Hi, this is Lenny Bernstein. I'm a reporter for the Washington Post, calling to find out if anyone at this address is a female between the ages of 54 to 57 years old, willing to make damaging remarks about candidate Roy Moore for a reward of between $5,000 to $7,000.
Bernie Bernstein.
We will not be fully investigating these claims. However, we will need a written report.
That's Bernie Bernstein. He's got that nasal, like, whiny voice. I just could have called him like Shlomo Whiny Face. You know, Chaim. You know? It's just this anti-Semitic thing, and I'm sure I don't know if it comes from the campaign or just from somebody. It must have come from somebody, because doing a robocall is not easy. You know, I mean, anyway. But the Democrats are in this problem. You know, they've got this problem that they don't want to lose power either. And since, of course, sin is not something that goes according to party, it is interesting to me that everybody in the establishment Republican Party is ready to throw Roy Moore under the bus and then back it over him and then do it, go back and forth over him, not just throw him under the bus. They want to run over him. But the Democrats, not so much. Now Al Franken is there, a local newswoman in L.A. named Leanne Tweeden. She was a model at the time. In 2006, she went on a USO tour with Al Franken, and he was a comedian then. And of course, USO tours, obviously, they're all these guys, they're far away from home. They give them a little, double entendre sex stuff. And, Bob Hope used to do it with Raquel Welch in the old days, and so she played along and all this stuff. Franken, Mr. Class, says to her, oh, but we have to rehearse the sex stuff. And she just thought she was going to be a narrator. And she said, I don't want to, I don't need to rehearse. I know how to do this stuff. And he said, no, you have to. And of course, grabbed her, mashed his face into her, according to her, and then stuck his tongue down her throat. All these guys, they have the same, Did they ever hear of bringing like flowers? I mean, nothing. Is this their game? Is this what counts for a game when you're like an SNL comedian? And worse, and not even funny. I mean, it's only funny because it's so sleazy. As they're flying home, she's in the transport plane. She falls asleep because they're exhausted, and she's wearing her flak jacket. And only afterwards, when she gets home and she sees the pictures, she sees that Franken grabbed her breasts while she was asleep, which is actual sexual assault in my book. I mean, the woman is asleep. There you have the picture. So I don't know how. I want to see the Democrats start calling for Al Franken to resign. I don't think so. Nolte, our pal John Nolte over at Breitbart, he sent out a tweet saying he's going to resign and they'll replace him. I don't buy it. I do not believe it. I don't think the Democrats. I mean, this is the thing, they just are. They're not going to do it. They're making this big show of, oh, yes, we have to have a reckoning with Bill Clinton. We must have a reckoning with Bill Clinton. But they're doing it now. I mean, this guy, Bob Menendez, here's Michelle Malkin writing about the Bob Menendez trial. And you may not know about the Bob Menendez trial because nobody is covering it. Michelle says, I pronounce Democrat leaders, left-wing feminists, and Beltway journalists guilty of gross negligence and hypocrisy over a dirty, rotten sleazeball in their midst. For the past 11 weeks, Bob Menendez has been on trial for 18 counts of bribery, fraud, and corruption involving nearly $1 million in gifts and donations. The jury remained deadlocked as of Tuesday. A new media research, I think the judge has sent them back they came out, said they were deadlocked, and the judge sent them back, gave them the dynamite charge. I think they're still negotiating. A New Media Research Center analysis reported that ABC, CBS, and NBC devoted 40 times more of their morning and evening TV newscast coverage this past week to Alabama GOP Senate candidate Roy Moore's alleged sexual assault accusers than to the ongoing federal trial of one of the Democrats' most powerful, visible, and entrenched figures on Capitol Hill. 4 years ago, when the FBI raided the Florida home of creepy Democrat donor and eye doctor Solomon Melgen, Menendez suddenly remembered that he had failed to pay back his hermano $60,000 for private jet flights to the Caribbean, where Melgen owns a Tony home in the private Casa de Campo. And, you know, they were with underage hookers and this whole thing. It's just a sleazy story. They're not covering it. So they're still doing the same thing. They are still doing the same thing. And so Allah Pundit over on Hot Air wrote a piece called, "Please, Democrats, no more op-eds about how terribly Bill Clinton behaved 20 years after any of it mattered." Because now, by throwing Clinton under the bus, they're not risking anything, right? Because, you know, she lost, Hillary lost, so they're not risking anything. He says, only now, 20 years later, with the Clintons at the nadir of their political influence and a storm of sexual misconduct allegations in the media raging against left and right-wingers alike to provide cover, only now is it safe for them to say, yeah, in hindsight, that wasn't very woke of us. Democrats had an opportunity just 18 months ago to reckon with Bill's behavior and Hillary's enabling of it by denying her their party's nomination, and they punted again. And this is the important thing, because people keep saying, yeah, back in the day, we should have done this. They did this just, 11 short months ago during the campaign, right? Well, let's get back in the Wayback Machine. You know, who was that? The dog in the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons who was always using the Mr. Peabody or something like this. We'll go back in the Wayback Machine. First, just for the younger folks who don't remember this, Bill Clinton lied about having an affair under oath, and they brought him before, I guess this was his impeachment hearing. Is that what this is? I think, yeah. And they questioned him. First, this is not this one. It's, it's number 7. Right. And listen to this guy answer the question, did you have a sexual relationship with this woman or not?
Knew of your relationship with Ms. Lewinsky. The statement that there was no sex of any kind, in any manner, shape, or form with President Clinton was an utterly false statement. Is that correct?
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. Yes.
The meaning of the word is. And he also had one where he said, what's the meaning of the word sexual? Because, you know, is it really sex if the girl is, you know, is giving you oral sex? I remember when that came out, I said to my wife, could I get away with that? You know, and when I regained consciousness, you know, it was like, you go home to your wife, yeah, well, you know, there's a little oral, it's not really sex, you know, once you put oral in front of it, it's not sex anymore. You know, I'd like to meet the wife who goes for that. Well, Hillary is the one, because she was his moll. She was basically hushing this stuff up. So let's just take a look at this. I mean, leave my mic on so I can describe it a little bit. Here is Bill after he escaped being convicted. Here is Bill justifying himself. But what's interesting about this is all the Democrats standing behind him.
I have accepted responsibility for what I did wrong in my personal life, and I have invited members of Congress to work with us to find a reasonable, bipartisan, and proportionate response. That approach was rejected today by Republicans in the House, but I hope it will be embraced by the Senate. I hope there will be a constitutional and fair means of resolving this matter in a prompt manner. Meanwhile, I will continue to do the work of the American people. We still, after all, have to save Social Security and Medicare for the 21st century. We have to give all our children world-class schools. We have to pass a patient's Bill of Rights. We have to make sure the economic turbulence around the world does not curb our economic opportunity here at home. We have to keep America the world's strongest force for peace and freedom. In short, we have a lot to do.
So yes, I'm a rapist, but stand back while I save the world. And you couldn't really see it because the picture is too small, but Al Gore is back there. All the big Democrats are standing behind him. Basically, he's been impeached and he's hoping the Senate won't convict, and he knows the Senate won't convict. And, all the big Democrats are standing behind him. So you can say, well, again, you can say that's 20 years ago. But now, right, they're running, Donald Trump is running, and Donald Trump is not going to play by the rules, and he's not going to let the media cow him into not mentioning this. The fact that Hillary helped Bill cover up for this all along. He could not have gotten away with it if Hillary had exploded on him and just said, that's it, I've had enough. He couldn't have gotten away with it. So here is a montage of the press protecting Clinton just 12 months ago.
Tonight, Donald Trump proving nothing is off limits, dramatically intensifying his attacks on former President Bill Clinton's history with women.
I looked at the New York Times. Are they going to interview Juanita Broderick? Are they going to interview Paula Jones? Are they going to interview Kathleen Willey? In one case, it's about exposure. In another case, it's about groping and fondling and touching against a woman's will.
And rape.
And rape.
The rape accusation is decades old and discredited.
And big settlements, massive settlements.
$850,000 for Paula Jones.
Lots of other things.
They were referring to a trio of women who say Bill Clinton made unwanted sexual advances in the 80s and 90s. Mr. Clinton denies it. Two of the cases were plagued by factual discrepancies. Still, the accusations linger and will be a focus of GOP ads against Hillary Clinton.
She politically attacked sexual harassment victims.
It's a discredit. Roy Moore is saying that the woman who accused him of assaulting her when she was 16, he's going after her big time. He's saying her yearbook is a forgery, and she said she never saw him again, but in fact she came before him in a divorce case and all this stuff. I don't hear the mainstream media now saying that she's been discredited. I don't know whether it's true or not. A lot of these things sound credible to me. I'm getting a lot of letters from you guys telling me that I'm rushing to judgment on Roy Moore. I'm not rushing to judgment on Roy Moore. I'm telling you what I hear. It sounds credible to me. That's what I'm saying. But when they say those things offhandedly, like, oh, these things were discredited, and it was years and years ago, that's them protecting him. So I just want to show you now. Hannity put out this thing where he said, Roy Moore has 24 hours to prove that he hasn't done these things, which of course you can't prove a negative, but Hannity said, come on, step forward. So Moore sent him a letter pointing out what he thought were discrepancies in this woman's case who says he attacked her when she was 16, not getting out of the one who said he touched her when she was 14, and not addressing things like the fact that he was banned from hanging out at a mall. Right? That happened to you, Rob, right? You were banned from hanging. We've all been, who hasn't? Come on. Who among us hasn't been banned from hanging out at the mall? I mean, come on, Anyway, so Hannity says, all right, I got the letter. I'm just going to stand back and let the voters decide. What I like about these things, by the way, is, I don't always agree with Hannity. Hannity's very partisan, very pro-Trump, right? Very pro-Trump and all this stuff. I don't always agree with him. But the guy has integrity. He stands for what he stands for, and he tends to stay in the place where he says he's going to be. But the minute people disagree with you now, they immediately say, oh, he's sold out to his sponsors. I think Hannity is telling you exactly what he thinks. He may not be right. He may be wrong. But anyway, so he stands down, and Brian Stelter at CNN, the conscience of the nation, right, goes after Hannity. Listen to this.
Because there was some reporting that maybe Donald Trump was waiting for Sean Hannity to know what to say.
Exactly. This is from our colleagues in Washington saying that the president has been very curious what Hannity and others on Fox were going to say on this matter. Fox has not covered the Roy Moore scandal to the same degree that CNN and other news outlets have. I think Fox used it as an embarrassing story, perhaps a story its conservative audience doesn't want to hear a lot about. So Hannity spent almost his entire hour railing against Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, saying it's time for a reckoning about the Clinton sexual harassment scandal machine. Hannity would much rather talk about the Clintons all day than have to talk about Roy Moore.
Yes, so the 20-year defenders of a rapist and his moll, Hillary, are now hitting Hannity because he's saying let the voters decide. I mean, these guys have no credibility whatsoever. And that's not good for us either, by the way, because we want a good news, we want a good journalistic industry, and we haven't got one. Everything the left does just blows up in their faces. And here we have Roy Moore blowing up in conservatives' faces, and it may really blow up, and that would be a terrible thing. But it's like they can't really take full advantage of it because they're so sleazy. The danger we're facing on the right, the danger we're facing is that we will become as bad as they are, that we'll start making it do what they did during the Clinton era and beyond. That's what we're trying to avoid. That's why some people are coming out so hard on Roy Moore, coming down so hard. It's not just people, in my opinion, it's not just people in the establishment trying to keep a Trumpian rebel out. It's also people trying not to sink to the level of the Democrats, because that's how low the Democrats are.